Welcome everybody, and thanks for attending today's webinar, 10 Benefits of GPS Tracking for Fleets. My name is Grace Devine, and I'll be moderating for today's presentation. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a second. First, I'd like to say we're very excited to have Mike Coble with us as a presenter today. Mike is the telematics specialist at AssetWorks and has worked with fleet asset tracking technology for many years. Before I pass things over to Mike, I just wanted to give everybody a quick heads up. The microphones have been muted, so if any of you have questions at any time during the presentation, you can use the WebEx chat tool. You should all see the chat icon located on your screen, and this acts as an instant messaging tool. Please feel free to use the WebEx chat tool to enter any questions during the presentation. Make sure you send them to host, and I'll be happy to field them and relay them to Mike at the conclusion of the presentation for a brief Q&A session. So with that said, I think we're going to get started here. Mike, I can see your screen and you're good to start.
Great, thanks Grace, much appreciated. Again, I'm Mike Coble, I'm the telematics specialist with AssetWorks. And today we are going to be covering, of course, the top 10 kind of benefits of a GPS telematics system. But we should talk a little bit about today's landscape. Dive into the benefits, and then a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. It is just meant to be a short session today, and we can certainly dive into deeper on individual conversations afterwards. All right. With that said, a quick look at the industry. None of this will be a real surprise to any of you. We're all dealing with shrinking budget and expectations to do more. You combine that with the Great Resignation the last few years. So we're dealing with inexperienced staff, even if we're lucky to have enough staff, right? Our fuel prices are crazy. Recent fuel ups of well north of $100 a tank is starting to really impact us all these days. And as organizations, many of you have sustainability goals. Where are we going? What are we doing for the, what are our environmental standards we're trying to meet? What are we trying to do to be better stewards of the earth here? And of course, we always need to be worried about safety. How do we ensure that our staff and the other people that we're sharing the road with, how are we ensuring that safety? Okay. So with that, why GPS telematics? What can it help us from a fleet manager perspective? What can it do to improve our fleet management, stop us from having to guess what's going on in the field, but actually seeing what's actually happening, and where my vehicle's at, how are my drivers driving these vehicles, what's the health of my vehicle, and what are some of the trends across my fleet that I have really no insight in today without a lot of manual effort. Okay. So from benefiting, any fleet management organization will benefit from GPS tracking, but each of these organizations are going to have it a little differently. A government fleet, you certainly have, potentially a lot more accountability to the general public, how you're driving. There's a lot of accountability and monitoring that needs to occur there. Where someone in construction, maybe you're more concerned about utilization. What assets do I have at different job sites that may flow down to how you're in the billing your clients, right? Utilities, outage management is critical. Find closest vehicles. So every fleet-based organization, while you use a lot of the same functionality, you may use it a little differently to meet the needs of your type of fleet. So some of these top benefits, we'll jump into it. A big part of it, when you know your vehicle location and status in real time, you can really effectively dispatch and assign vehicles. So this lets me make decisions of assigning the most appropriate vehicle, and that appropriate vehicle may be the closest one. It may be the right type of vehicle. It may also be that, listen, I can't assign this vehicle to the job because maybe it's EV and the state of charge is down under 10%. I need to bring that one in. So knowing information on what's happening in real time, I can really make sure I'm assigning the right resource to the work that needs to be done at that point in time. Then, of course, as your day goes on, it never goes to plan. So knowing when your plans are going off the rails, being able to see where things aren't getting addressed that need to, you can reallocate your work and do that in real time because you have that real time visibility. and your dispatching people can focus on the problem solving versus just trying to figure out where everybody is. At the end of the day, doing this really allows you to complete more work with fewer resources, which is the goal. Again, back to the fuel costs. GPS telematics, help you manage driver behavior, and that driver behavior really greatly impacts your fuel. So simple things like idling, you can burn a gallon an hour of fuel just idling. We just finished a pilot test for a client, and the initial reporting we were seeing, daily idling of over 9 hours. And first we actually were looking in the reports to see whether, geez, is there an error in the new report? And it wasn't. It was they were idling over 9 hours on a 24-hour shift. So they really could start seeing where, geez, we're they're burning fuel left, right, and center. Speeding, of course, is impacts your fuel consumption. The greater, the more you're at higher speeds, the worse your fuel economy. It's pretty straightforward. And then when you start monitoring things like aggressive driving and harsh, especially harsh acceleration, is absolutely burns extra fuel. So other driver behavior, just inappropriate vehicle use. If you let your drivers, some organizations let their drivers bring their vehicles home after hours. However, they're not supposed to use them like late at night or on weekends, or doing side trips during the day. Being able to minimize that inappropriate vehicle use is, of course, going to save your organization fuel. All right. The other side of fuel costs is your vehicle health. So the ability of a telematics system to monitor your vehicle health and understanding, is there any warning lights? Is there any trouble codes? Because a poorly maintained vehicle generally is going to be running more inefficient and burning more fuel. So if you're monitoring that health, you're going to be able to address those problem vehicles closer to real time and eliminate those excessive fuel burns. On the other side, knowing your entire fuel economy across the fleet, you can look at, see, geez, all my 2018 F-150s, I can look at which ones have the worst performance, and you can dispose those lemons in your fleet. So that helps you prioritize the less efficient vehicles in your fleet. Okay. Another saving benefit is asset utilization. Now you have a full spotlight on how much are all your vehicles being used. So you can identify those underutilized vehicles and kind of decide on my fleet reductions. What I have too many of this type of vehicle. We're not using them all. We don't need them all. We've seen a number of clients that have large yards or multiple yards. There's been asset hoarding where people are kind of hiding assets like, oh, I might need this trailer, I might need this particular asset, so I'm just going to keep a few in my yard in case I need them. So being able to see the lack of utilization on those vehicles, you can eliminate that asset hoarding. And the other side of utilization is there overutilized vehicles? Are there some facets of your fleet where you're running flat out, and if you end up with any downtime on those vehicles, you're going to be it's going to impact your service and your ability to service your customers. And so you may, at the end of the day, you have this accurate data that can help you justify your budget needs, either a budget reduction or budget increase for certain vehicle types. Right? There's a lot of tools with the GPS telematics systems out there, that you're identifying, your top low use assets. You can identify things such as PTO hours. Are we using those bucket trucks? Or are we just driving crews around in a very expensive vehicle? So you can look at those types of utilization to make sure you got the right mix of fleet for your organization. Right? And of course, safety is always a benefit of these GPS systems, right? Speed is one of the great safety issues. So the systems allow you to monitor against posted speed limit, typically a percentage or value over the speed limit. You can also create your own geofence areas and define your own speed limits within those areas. Maybe those are job sites or work areas that you need to make sure speeding is kept to your own values. And you can also use predetermined thresholds such that maybe for this particular vehicle type, even if the speed limit is 75 miles per hour, maybe you want to keep that down under 70 or 65. And then the other safety side is monitoring those aggressive drivers, harsh braking, harsh acceleration, harsh swerving, just those that are hard on the vehicles. And another thing, knowing where everything is, your dispatchers are not calling people, hey, where are you? So you're not enticing drivers to be picking up their phones, answering texts. you don't need to do that. You have the information right in front of you. And then you have tools such as, driver scorecards, identify the risk drivers that, are going to need a little more training, have a little more accountability, but also you use that as a reward. So you can use that to reward your safer drivers. So it's not just a slap on the wrist, but it's also use that as a reward. And there's a lot of ways to consume, data on the driver behavior. So you can get real-time alerts. However, you may not want to get a real-time alert every time somebody hits their brakes hard. So you typically use real-time alerts for things that you deem more critical, and then you use the dashboards, drill down reports to kind of dive into all the other elements of what's important in terms of that driver behavior. You can also, use address driver behavior across multiple divisions and then compare them. So you can use those, regional or divisional comparisons to apply some reward systems or comparisons between groups. So that just helps you maybe a little friendly competition between the divisions and from a safety perspective. Uh, and the other side in vehicle, consuming and looking at vehicle safety is the ability to see, GPS systems let you see exactly what did that driver or that group of drivers do in that day, and what were all the events that occurred, and highlight any of those specific behaviors that occurred upon that route. So it really, like I said, again, shines that spotlight, lets you make decisions, let you decide what training you need, um, you know, is critical to help your fleet management goals, right? And one other element that GPS systems can offer you is the ability to look more at trends across the entire fleet. Maybe some of you, maybe have more unionized shops. Maybe it's not as easy to maybe point out on individuals, but with a heat mapping type of option, you can look at, where are speeding hotspots or where are some congregation areas, and then you can address it as a group to say, hey, us as a group, we need to really worry about, hey, we're speeding in this area, or hey, these particular areas, we're really doing some harsh braking. The bottom is steep hills and corners. These are potential safety areas that we need to worry about and keep an eye on. Right. So of course, with the telematics, now we're capturing data from the vehicle, so that's going to help us do accurate preventative maintenance. We're using real engine miles, we're using real engine hours coming right from the vehicle's engine computer. So these GPS systems allow us to schedule preventative maintenance accurately. We're not going to either over or under maintain your vehicles, which adds cost to your fleet, right? And it's an automated process. You're eliminating that manual labor, and you're getting the benefit of, eliminating the labor and the errors you get from manual, transposing numbers back and forth from handwritten and back into your fleet management systems. And then part of that benefit's avoiding engine damage. When you have real-time alerting on the trouble codes, malfunction indicator lights, you're seeing exactly what's going on in that vehicle remotely. So for some of that, you got a bit of a remote triage situation. So, if a vehicle throws a trouble code, they're out you can see exactly where they are on the map. You can see the severity of it, and then you can do that triage and say, geez, you know what? That code is fine. You're okay. You continue your work day, and when you get back in the shop, we'll schedule in some repair at that time. Or it could be critical. No, like shut your vehicle right down. We're going to send out the next closest vehicle. We'll get someone to help you out. And if you're a supervisor in field, you can see all the same things on your mobile device. So it really helps you, eliminate expensive repairs from people driving with the red light on. Right? And then one of the benefits is you have all this data, and you also want to bring that into your fleet management system. So with this electronic data, now you can not only automate the data collection back to the GPS system, but you can automate the data and flow that into your fleet management system. So your fleet management system, which is driving your preventative maintenance, your regular service requests and work orders, and lets you prioritize the work that needs to be done based on the severity of what's happening out in the field. And the other thing with GPS telematics, there is open API. So you may have other business systems. If you're a utility, you got an outage management, you might want the same location or telematics data flowing into other systems. So having APIs available to make use of that data beyond your fleet management and GPS tracking is typically a benefit to your organization. And then when it comes to reducing your environmental footprint, a lot of the things we talked about, fuel, reducing your fuel consumption, monitoring vehicle idling, of course, reduces your fuel costs, eliminates violation and fines, reduces your maintenance, all the speeding and aggressive driving. That all helps reduce your environmental footprint. And it being able to see on aggregate all your fuel economy across your fleet, again, helps you eliminate those lemons out of your vehicle. And and another item with uh, benefit is the decreased insurance costs. So insurance companies, they see that you're lowering your accident risk, that you're improving your driver behavior, your vehicle theft recovery is improved. So they're reducing your premium. So make sure when you're talking to your insurance companies that you're indicating, hey, we have a GPS telematics system, we have a driver behavior management system in place, and that's going to help you decrease your insurance costs. Another benefit is, of course, your customer service. The fact that you know where everybody is and what they're doing, you can answer your customer questions. So, hey, where's my driver? What's their status? Who's closest to address issues? I mean, we all see we all know where our Amazon packages and the status they are coming, and that we all enjoy that as a consumer. And again, no, the dispatchers are taken away from their mundane tasks of trying to find out where vehicles are. They know all that. So your dispatch, your personnel can really focus on problem solving and versus just trying to find out where people are. Right. In other areas, with your GPS telematics, it could really help you say not just what's going on right now, but hey, last Thursday someone calls in, calls in a complaint. Hey, your vehicle cut me off last week, and I want to register a complaint. Well, the ability to go back in these systems and do go back to a time and location and search just a particular time and location, say, was one of my vehicles in this area at that time? And if so, what vehicle was it? What direction were they going? Were they speeding? What were they doing? So it really helps you kind of validate customer complaints. It also helps you exonerate, your drivers if they've been misappropriately blamed. So this is just another facet of customer service that you can you have this information so you can answer these questions. And again, these things flow into reducing your maintenance costs, right? Because I'm using real-time data, I'm managing my preventative maintenance schedule. I'm not over or under maintaining, which is costly to an organization. I'm not just going to do this once a month because that's the way we always did it. I'm going to do it when it's needed. You're reducing wear and tear on your vehicles because of the driver behavior changes that GPS systems impact, the less aggressive driving, lower idling, low speeding. Those are all wear and tear elements on your vehicles. You're avoiding the engine damage when you're driving with the red light on, so that's going to reduce your maintenance costs. And of course, the utilization, the ability for you to manage utilization is effectively going to lower the mileage and lower the engine hours across your fleet, and that's going to lower your maintenance. I'm not crisscrossing vehicles across the city to do jobs when you can find the closest one. Okay. And of course, when you optimize your fleet size based on understanding your utilization, you're going to eliminate all those costs associated with that vehicle. So I'm not maintaining it, I'm not inspecting it, I'm not spending excess money on underutilized assets. A few client ROIs. So one of them is more of a safety oriented. Again, getting rid of those cell phone conversations has really reduced distracted driving for clients of these systems, right? Because they're not on the phone asking about information they could automatically get from the system. So that's been helpful to reduce distracted driving, which is an issue for everyone. And then, from a construction company perspective, uh, the ability just to track when equipment was arriving at job sites, leaving at job sites, uh, gave them a great return on their investment because they could actually bill for actual time and not just something that had to be memorized or they're written down wrong or the customers complaining about. They could validate every hour they spent on the job site. So just the final thing, I know we've kind of stepped through a lot quickly. The goal today is to get through a lot quickly, but the AssetWorks GPS, that is our own tool. We actually came into AssetWorks, this division and product, to over 8 years ago. And prior to that, I was in business for 25 years and pioneered some of the first GPS systems that were first commercially available. So we do offer a comprehensive GPS platform, fully modular, expands beyond GPS for vehicle inspection, electronic logs, field ticketing, driver safety apps. A fully standalone product, or it's fully, for those of you in the call that are current AssetWorks clients, it's a fully integrated option, two-way integration with your FleetFocus FA and M5 platforms. And with that, just want to see if we appreciate time, and if there's any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and maybe I'll touch base with Grace if there's any that come in while we were talking.
So if you have any questions, just send them to host using the WebEx chat tool on your screen, and if there's any time, I'll pass those on to Mike and we'll be happy to give you an answer. But we do have a few questions that have come in already. So the first one, is your GPS system data available to be used by other systems than your own?
Yeah, and most GPS telematics systems will have kind of wide open, available APIs, so that GPS data and all the telematics data that you capture is available on API. Some people have their own business analytics tools, their own other thing, so that data is available, fully available to be used in other systems.
And what equipment is needed in the vehicle?
Yeah, so typically a small GPS device that has a ability to connect to either the OBD2 port on a light duty vehicle, or connect to the J bus, typically a 9-pin or 16-pin, or 6-pin connecting on the heavy duty vehicles. And then assets like trailers or generators or light standards, there's different devices for different assets.
And the next one is, how do you demonstrate the ROI for a prospective client?
Yeah, so what we like to do is when you initially, well, first of all, there's a lot of studies and reports, and that information is all available. But for your own fleet, sometimes it's nice to actually install the somewhat discreetly some of the equipment on a subset of vehicles, and use that as some of the benchmark equipment. So that lets you monitor how much you're idling, how much people are speeding, and you're not necessarily telling them you have this in it. You're putting it in it, and it lets you collect a lot of benchmark data. And then it's interesting to see, okay, hey, now you introduce it to the organization, you let them know that this is going to be going live with your system, and then you can kind of see how the data and the behavior changes from when they didn't know it was in there to when they now know that information is being tracked.
Great. And the next one is, where will the data be stored? Will it be in a cloud, or can it be on premise?
It can be either. So it depends on your organization. Largely cloud-based for most situations, but it can be on premise as well.
And the next one is, how long does it take to install the GPS hardware?
Yeah, usually now, while the plug and play ones, you can plug it in literally seconds. That's generally not the recommended install, because it also can be removed in seconds. So often, most GPS installs then are fairly straightforward. Light duty vehicles could be 20 to 30 minutes. Heavy duty vehicles might be a little more, 30 to 45 minutes. But you're generally installing with a Y or T cable, so that the GPS devices are tucked up, hidden under the dash. And as far as there's nothing needed to remove. It provides an available OBD2 or JBus port, so mechanics don't have to remove anything when they go to work on the vehicle and plug in their diagnostic equipment.
All right. And another question related to data for your GPS: who owns the data?
Yeah, the customers own the data. That's all their data. It's interesting. I get this question a lot. I mean, I guess maybe in the past this wasn't the case for many of these systems, but yeah, the data is all yours, and you own the data, and 100% yours.
That looks like all the time we have for questions today. I'd like to thank you all again for attending today's presentation. Hopefully you've all secured some valuable takeaways to keep in mind moving forward. Mike, I also like to thank you on behalf of AssetWorks once again for sharing your expertise and everyone today. As you see, Mike's contact information is available here. Should any of you have any follow-up questions, I hope you all have a great day. We look forward to having you with us next time.
Thank you, Grace. Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for your time. Have a great rest of your day.